Thanks for tuning into the Adulting is Easy podcast. This is Lauren, and I manage the Adulting is Easy blog and podcast, which can be found at realadultingiseasy.com. As you may have noticed, this is part 2 of the Stephen Wealthy conversation. I do suggest that you go ahead and go back to part 1 if you haven't listened to it yet. And if you have, thanks so much for sticking around and enjoy.
Are we allowed to talk about the stocks at all?
Yeah, we could talk about the stocks.
You said that 40% of your, is those index funds or?
Yes. Yeah, for the most part, index funds. We have, my 401k, my husband's 401k.
Okay.
And we have an after-tax brokerage, and then we have our Roths. We don't have a lot in our brokerage. Pretty much we max our retirement accounts, which I'm sure this is so US centric of me, but you probably know what those things are, right? The 401k and the Roth.
Oh yeah. You guys
always know. I never remember yours because I'm a egotistical, centric American. But yeah, so we max our retirement accounts, and then whatever kind of leftover money that we have, we've been putting into real estate, a little bit in the brokerage. We're coming to a decision point soon. We're going to have to throw a lot more into the brokerage, just from a retiring early perspective.
So when you say that the leftovers put into real estate, so what does that look like? Because that's not going to be 100K leftover. That's going to be 2,000, 5,000. You know what I mean? We're talking. Yeah. But that in a real estate point of view is not going to make a world of. You're not going to do it.
No. So it just goes into my It goes. So I work on. I have salary and then I work on commission.
Okay.
Because I'm in sales. Been in sales a long time. Right now, the job I have now is pretty heavy salary, but before it was pretty heavy bonuses and commission, and at the end of a year.
Okay. Yeah.
And I would put money in a high yield savings account. And then when that got to a certain point, whether it's 40, 50, 60 grand, I would kind of start looking. And that money can stack up pretty quickly the way that I was compensated.
Okay. And then you would just you would go looking for a deal, or you would just put it against a mortgage?
I would go looking for a deal. I've never paid an extra mortgage payment ever. I don't know. We talked about this a little bit before we recorded, but in personal finance, there's some topics that are, kind of divisive, right? There's the real estate or die people. There's the index funds or die people. I'm kind of actually a little bit in the middle on that. And then, there's the stock pickers, but within real estate, should you have a mortgage or not? Right. And, I have one property that doesn't, I have 2 that do. And they're leveraged like crazy, and the interest rates are 2.99 and 3.25. So I have not made an extra mortgage payment, and I don't anticipate one anytime soon.
Yeah, it's hard to. I don't know. From my point of view, I'm fully aligned with your strategy there. It makes total sense to me. You got 1.2 on 650 or 620, I think you said.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen with the dollar over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. We don't know.
Do you really, and you're locked in, so it's not like the interest rates are going to get away on you.
Nope.
And so you have, it's a no-brainer. And so that 1.2 becomes 2, and that's 6, you said it was 650?
Yeah, 620. So 620. And that's the thing. So every
becomes
day,
520.
Right. That goes down and the other one goes up. And I'm in Florida. I'm in, an area that's pretty hot right now. The duplex that we own outright. So at first I started putting money away and I was just gonna have a down payment. But then in St. Pete, I couldn't get anybody to accept a financing offer on a price of a duplex that made sense. So I sold the single family rental that I had and then paid cash for a duplex.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's how I ended up getting that one. The first one had a mortgage. It was just my first primary. And so that's how I got the first one. And it's gone, I bought it for $170 a year and a half ago, and it's worth $3 now. No joke. Obviously, like I just talked about, it has a lovely roof, some very expensive lumber in it. So that contributed to it. But yeah, so because of where I live, I do tend to think that the appreciation will hold pretty steady at around 4, maybe 5%. The last 5 years, it's been 8 or 9% year over year. So, theoretically that 1.1, 1.2 number goes up, and every single month that 620 number goes down.
Exactly.
So
do you diversification and stuff? So do you think outside of Florida at all, or do you look for opportunities in other states, or you're like, nope, I know Florida, I'm sticking with Florida and I can play this market? Or are you like, maybe I need to, and I'm not trying to lead you into either one. Both really work. I'm just curious on your take. If you like the no, I'm going to learn Florida and become a master of it, or how you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, the last two places we bought with renovation costs were between like 450,000. I don't know that. I don't think I'll do that again. I don't think I want to. I don't think I want to refinance. Maybe I'll refinance a duplex I own outright. But that's the one. It's in a rough area. I anticipate higher vacancy. And during COVID, it was
Uh-huh.
nice to not have the payment every month and no ability to collect it. So I kind of like owning that one outright. So I probably won't refinance that. So if I wanted to do something here, come up with another 20% of 400 is a lot. So for that reason, I have a friend who is a wholesaler. Well, she works for a wholesaling company, I should say, and she has a lot of connections in Tennessee. So I'm considering a cheaper market in Tennessee and just do a
Yeah.
single family there. Me and to play a different role where I bring the money and she handles everything else. And we split everything 50-50. So I'll try that for
Yeah.
two reasons. One, to try the out of state thing. Two, to try to play a different role in real estate than I have thus
Yeah.
far.
That's cool. That's really awesome.
It's
Let
funny,
me,
like I've never had anybody like interview me like you are. It's kind of
no,
funny. It's
well,
it's kind of
no,
funny to
because
be on this side of it.
well, because I find it, honest, Lauren, I find it really interesting. So my next question I have for you is climate change. I'm, like you said at the start, I'm oil and gas.
Hmm.
I'm been living this for 10 years now. The industry that I'm in is reads and sees the, the writing on the wall, and
Yeah.
they are trying their damnedest to change and move and do what they can. And I know some of your listeners will be like, yeah, they're just saying that to you. No, they know if they don't get this stuff their act together, they are done. And
Yeah.
so they are trying their fastest to. They're trying some technology like carbon capture and um,
Hmm.
clean up their act and stuff. And so, but also too, where I live, like it's the air is all smoky. It's above seasonal average temperature. So I'm just wondering for yourself, does that weigh into your real estate? Like when you're looking for insurance and the market
Hmm.
you're going into with Tennessee and with Florida, do you see like, over the next 10, 15 years, is it going to get warmer, more
Hmm.
hurricanes, more? Because I think you guys are in a hurricane area, right? With Florida,
Oh
like
yeah.
sometimes you
Oh
get
yeah.
touched. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like just
So
how that plays out for you in your mind.
yeah, my goal. So the first two places, the duplex in St. Pete is not in a flood zone, even though it's in St. Pete. So it's not in a flood zone. The bed and breakfast we bought is not in a flood zone. And this bed and breakfast was around for the last Cat 4 storm to make landfall in the Tampa Bay area, which was in
Hmm.
1921. So 100 years ago, this house survived a Cat 4. So I'm pretty bullish that it'll survive the next one.
Yeah.
The place we just bought is on the water.
Uh-huh.
So it's only about 7 foot elevation. I really feel like investors are already speaking about climate change. I think
Yeah.
they're already coming in and saying you as a business need to change.
Yeah.
We see valuations dropping of some of the largest energy companies. It wasn't that long ago Exxon was the largest company, most valuable company in the world. We can see the Middle East, right?
Hmm.
They're even making different bets on oil, right? They're creating these sovereign wealth funds, investing outside of oil because they know that that's really not the future. So I'm actually pretty bullish that the private sector and some government help too, but I think we're going to get it done. That doesn't help me with insurance. Insurance is certainly much higher. Hurricanes, absolutely, they're a thing. We got hit by a tropical storm this year. We weren't in town, but that was weird. But nobody was no, just from an Airbnb perspective, nobody happened to be on the property just like coincidentally the night that it hit. So that was great. And we weren't here either. So, but yeah, like when I was shopping for hurricane insurance, the insurance, well, not hurricane, right? Homeowners insurance in general, the insurance went from 5,000 a year on this place to 8 for 2021. I shopped it around and went outside of a broker and found it for 3,500. So
Holy.
I did find
So
something. So
that's
yeah, and
you
then
you
one
you
more thing I'll say about the hurricane,
yeah.
just while I'm thinking about it, is a lot of people. So I've done a roof. I did a roof last year. I did a roof this year. I'm doing another one. Something that I learned is that people were walking around like neighborhoods in Florida and like knocking on doors, right? And people were home because of COVID. And people would say, hey, I can go up on your roof and maybe I'll find some storm damage and you can make an insurance claim on your roof. And a lot of people in Florida did that last year. So I'm sort
Mm-hmm.
of hoping that that's going to be like a one-time correction in terms of premiums. I'm also still holding out hope that, I mean, we had a really bad 2004. I mean, we had what was it? Like, I want to say like Isaac, Francis, Jean, and Charlie. This is just off the top of my head, right? And then Katrina was 05. Then we had nothing for like 10 years. Not nothing. I don't want to say
Gotcha.
nothing because there were still some storms, but
Yeah.
I'm still hoping maybe against hope that we're going to have some downtime coming up here too.
Yeah. 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 I hear you. Yeah. We had a really bad flood here in 2013 that changed the insurance policy
Mm-hmm.
scheme and structure here and stuff. So, but it's interesting. So you said the insurance was 8. It went to you got it down to 5, and then you found someone for 35.
Oh no, it
And
was
like we
5. My renewal went to 8, and
oh
then I
sorry
found
yeah
it for 3.
jeez. And so I think so if we could really harp on that. So the real estate is different in every state and in every locale. So like I don't have to worry about that. I don't have hurricane insurance, whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
insurance here is like $100 a month, if that.
Wow.
It's super cheap. Like some of the things you have to consider here is like okay, some hail sometimes, and then flooding insurance, and so you just need to make sure you do need to know how you're covered or not. But then in some locations the prices are super expensive. Like in some cities, Vancouver, Toronto, New York, it's
Mm-hmm. Yep.
you're paying you can't. I don't think you get anything under $1 million with any kind of quality or anything. And then in some places you're under $50,000-$100,000. Like it's a no brainer. And so just, when we're on Twitter and people are talking about how these amazing deals that they're doing, sometimes that's location specific and that opportunity is there because of where they're at too. And so that weighs back into where I was kind of going with, your advantage and what you can play to, right? So, that guy who's in New York City, man, that's going to be tough to become a real estate mogul there. You're up against guys that have been doing it since the 1800s and their family and stuff like that, right? It's really hard to break into that and get that incredible buy. Whereas it's a little easier for guys like myself where I'm at in Calgary, Canada, where, prices are much more reasonable. And then there's some locations in the States where you don't even need a mortgage. You can just step in and do all cash. You got it. And you're flowing positive. You're flowing positive straight first month.
I know I'm in some real estate groups and these people will be like, look at this beautiful place I just bought for 40 grand. I'm like, what? Like that's what my mom's like first house was here, in the St. Pete area. Like it is different. But even from when I bought to now, I mean, I bought my first house, I went under contract when I was 22, closed when I was 23. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 125,000, needed a little bit of work. It's probably worth 300 now. So that means that someone that was 22 or 23, I don't see how they could buy that house at this point, right?
Yeah.
My cousin just bought a house in St. Pete, very similar to the one I bought, but he bought it for $215 and it's a 2-1. So I mean, what about 10 years from now? Nobody that young is going to be able to buy probably a house in St. Pete. So, I'm lucky that I got started when I did. I was asking you about, 2003, 2004, 2005, that time period, because I've always wondered if I had been a little bit older, what would I have done? I probably, my family's always valued home ownership. They've owned 2 houses for a long time, one their primary, one their rental, with the goal of the rental basically paying for the taxes and insurance on the primary in retirement. I probably would have bought a house, right? I would have bought a house and the peak of the market. And then what if it went down? And then I probably I wouldn't be in real estate right now. I probably wouldn't have 3 places because, there's probably a lot of people that got in when you did, for example, it was just totally different than what I got to deal with, like immediate, like a ton of appreciation immediately. And then I actually started making pretty good money, was able to buy another primary, rent out the first one, then even more equity, buy a place for cash, right? I mean, you just start going around the flywheel, as they say. And some of it was timing and some of it was location. And yeah, you're absolutely right. figure out what you're good at. I'm also kind of a believer of, do a partnership, right? Try
Yeah.
figure out what you can do. House hack. I mean, you know what? You may not be able to buy a single family home, but you maybe can buy a duplex and rent one side out. You know?
Yeah. Yep. So, three things I want to. I don't know if you have time to talk about them, but one I would really love to talk on that I think is relevant to maybe the audience is fast forwarding on the prices. So you touched on it a little bit, just with St. Pete. I'm not too familiar with that. Is that what it's called? St.
Yeah,
Peter's or
St. Petersburg. Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's
St.
literally
Petersburg.
named
Yeah.
after the one in Russia. Pretty sure.
I didn't know if I could go there, but okay, cool.
I'm pretty sure.
So fast forward, like when if prices continue to go as they have been, the dollar continues to decline. We don't need to talk about hyperinflation, but just the normal 2 to 3%.
Mhm.
Like it's going to get more costly to replace the house. That's part of the inflation play that you have there is that replacement cost.
Mhm.
So what does a getting out of university kid do that maybe into their late 20s, somebody who's looking to buy a home, the numbers get to a point where it's getting silly. So I'm curious because you seem more focused on real estate than I am. I'm curious on your opinion where this plays out into the future generation, the 20 and 30-year-old guys and women. How does this play out for them, and how do they get into their homes?
I think they need to be frugal longer into adulthood than previous generations have. And what I mean by that is, it's a nice idea to go live in the city center and maybe like a 1 bedroom apartment, pay rent for a long time, or maybe people used to get married pretty young, have a big wedding, buy a house, right? In the future, they may need to get a little more comfortable living with roommates, or live with roommates for a while. Maybe don't live in the nicest place, be frugal just a bit longer, right?
Yeah,
Instead
yeah,
of being frugal just until you're 22 and graduate college, be frugal till you're 25, you know?
yeah.
Um, and does that mean you have to end your frugality with home ownership? No, but you should probably be safe if you're not going to buy a house, which is a huge generator of wealth, especially, here in the US.
Hmm.
At least be investing in the stock market, right? This is the thing. If you're frugal until you're 30, right? Live with some roommates for a little while longer. Go out one less time to eat than other people do. Drive an older car than other people do. This society is so into new cars, it's almost sickening, right? If you do that for a bit
Hmm.
longer, you will be able to save enough. I still think you'll be able to save enough money to buy a
Hmm.
place. Or you can do what my husband and I just did. Like we moved into a small town called Tarpon Springs, which is, quite a bit. It's the north. It's St. Pete's the most southern city in the county. Tarpon Springs is the most northern because the house we were able to get good money for the house we sold, and we bought a cheaper place, and we both work from home. It's like a little bit of geo arbitrage.
Hmm.
Maybe
Hmm.
live a little bit outside. Some people are like, I'm getting priced out of my area. I'm like, I promise you, there's other beautiful areas not too far away that you could be really happy living. So live frugal until you're 30. Maybe move a little bit out of where your comfort zone is. Try a new place. Work remotely. You can be even further away. We just want to be within an hour of the Tampa airport. And then even when you do buy a place, maybe be frugal even a little bit longer, and don't give yourself that forever home or even the starter home.
Hmm.
Buy yourself a duplex, a triplex, or a quad and live in one of the units. It's the best thing you can do.
I think, yeah, excellent advice or ideas of how to get there. I really like that geo arbitrage that you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
as well too. If things continue to trend the way they are with the work from home, there could be those outlying areas or opportunities to get in there too.
Mm-hmm.
So and then with the frugality, so I'm working on a blog post not for this Saturday but for next. I always post on Saturdays, but so the 14th, and it's with a guy in his 20s. He's 26 now, and he's put together $400,000, and he's on track to get 1 million by the time he's 30. He thinks he'll be able
Mm-hmm.
to do it by 29. And I'm like, man, if you get it by 29.9 or 30 or 31 or 32. Like it's all, and he's doing it through like retirement accounts, liquid assets sort of thing. He's not doing it with real estate and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you just for those that are, your readers and your listeners and stuff, like you're saying, buckle down, be frugal. And he is frugal. I don't think he just barely got over 100K a year salary. So, but most of the time he's been under that. He's been in the 20 to 40 type of K range, and he's saving like a bandit. He's just 50% is going into his savings accounts and stuff. And so, I'm not finished with all the details on it and stuff. It's a real life story. He's on Twitter and stuff, and I'm working with him, and we just don't have the final stuff put together. But
Yeah, I mean,
that's coming
50%.
out, and
Yeah, you can do fantastic with 25%. I think being worth $1 million, if you start saving 50% in your 20s, I think you can be worth $1 million when you're 30. For sure.
Yeah.
My husband has a goal of us being worth $1 million when he's 30 and he's 29. So obviously, I guess if you divide that up, that's only 500 each. But I mean, it can be done, and it's uncomfortable probably at first, but you got to get comfortable with this idea of there's money that I don't touch. Yeah. And not a lot of people think that way.
Yeah. And so like personally myself, I've always found it when I have 3 kids, and it's been I find it very difficult for me to get into the 20%. I'm usually somewhere in the 16 to 17%. And, everyone has their own, priorities and what they're doing and opportunities and stuff like that. And so, these guys who are doing, I think 42% seems to be a common number that's tossed around and stuff. And I look at that, I'm like, oh man, like, yeah, it's difficult. So many different ways to get there, lots of different opportunities, know your strengths. And I really like your idea, because that's a common thing out there is like, I'm 24 years old or I'm 25 years old. How am I ever going to afford something in some of these markets? And so they just, and then like your advice of living frugal, live with your parents, be frugal maybe an extra year after you've bought the place, and keep that money going, invest in the stock market. Those are all terrific ideas. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. And it's real estate. It's my favorite thing. I really do love it. But a lot of people, it's not one or the other, right? It's not like, oh, I'm going to do real estate or I'm going to put money in the stock market. You can't do both, No. And I think 15, 16, 17%, like you said, that's fine. Like, I think the numbers really are, if you start saving when you're like 22, if you start saving 10%, I think you can retire just fine. So if you start saving later, then you need to save a little more. And if you want to retire before normal retirement age, then you need to save more. I mean, that's just how the numbers work out. But you need to save something. You need to start saving something. And, I've said this before. Pretend, this is especially true for Americans, right? But pretend you make 20% less than you do, and then set your life up the way somebody else normally would, and you'll be totally fine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, that would be definitely work well. Yeah.
So what else? Got anything else you want to add?
And I think you kind of hinted on it the first little bit there, where it depended, a lot of your experience that you've had so far has been to some degree your first experience, right? Like you got in on the back end of the 2008 financial crisis. Like you didn't get in before that. You were able to leverage that or get into it before it, right? Or after, sorry.
Yeah, I bought in 2012.
Yeah, and so like that. So I think that's really important. Is like your first experience that you have with a particular asset class can really set the tone and where you're going to go with everything. And so because you had that terrific first experience, it's worked well for you. You've now built up, I think it's 9 years now, right, with real estate?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you've grown into being a professional.
That's right. I guess so. That's so funny to hear it that way.
But no, but you have ultimate conviction in it. This is going to work. You might have a bad year. You might have a bad 2 years or so, but long term it's going to work out. And I think it's terrific.
Well, yeah, and I have 2 examples of that. This happened to my grandparents, and it happened to my husband's grandparents, who are 20 years apart. in age. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it happened two different times where they got into the stock market right before a crash. Like my grandparents, I
Mm-hmm.
think they got in like 87, right before like Black Monday. And then his parents, I think, got in maybe right before '08. And then they, everything dropped. They pulled their money out. They
Yeah.
lost money.
Yeah.
My grandma, who is, she's going to be 89 in like a week, 2 weeks. She said, if I would have left that money in there, I'd be a millionaire,
Oh,
you
yep.
know?
100%. Sorry, go. Yeah.
No, so I'm just saying, like, that was really unfortunate that was both of their
Yes.
first experience with stocks. I mean, Eric's grandma turned to us my husband's grandma turned to him last March. I was like, do you have money in the stock market? We were like, yeah. And we're buying more, right? But
Yeah.
it's still affecting her, right? And I don't know what the moral is. Like, trust the numbers, trust the charts, trust that the stock market has gone up really well. And even if you are 10% lower than you were yesterday, you're going to, over time, get that
Yeah.
back. Probably the same with real estate. Real estate's a little different because it is very location specific. Like, if the bottom of the market, and maybe this happened to you in 2015, fell out of oil and gas, that probably affects your whole area, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
it
if
did.
yeah, right, and California is on fire, and Vancouver's on fire, and if Florida, gets covered with water, or these hurricanes, we have Cat 4s every single summer, right? That changes that a little bit. But certainly from the stock market perspective, it's just a trust thing. You just have to trust that it's going to recover, because it always has, and it's self-selecting, right? That's the cool thing about the
Mhm.
stock market, is if a company does badly, they get pulled from the
Yeah.
index funds, right?
Yeah.
They don't exist anymore.
Hmm.
So it has a bias towards companies that are performing well.
So like you said at the top, I graduated in '03, got to work, started saving right away. So my first experience was right on the back end of the NASDAQ.com bubble
Yeah.
bursting. So
Mm-hmm.
my university degree is in management information systems. And I remember my
Mm-hmm.
professor telling us, you are graduating into the worst job market ever. I didn't have problems finding my first job, but it highlights the point that it was difficult. It was a hard climate for IT to be getting in. But because the market was down low, right, you start buying into that, and then it starts riding up. Now, in the context that I was coming into, all of my parents, their friends, uncles, aunts, etc., as they're trying to save for retirement, they're all getting burned, right?
Yeah.
And so I've grown through adulthood. I've heard these stories of people that got roasted through the .com bubble bursting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my context and where I'm coming in.
Yeah.
And so that's always lingered in my head of just like, what would they have done if they had just, and like you said, they pulled out, they never come back again type of thing.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's always been in my mind of what would they have done if they'd stayed in. And I did an analysis where if you'd put in 10 grand at the day right before it was sometime in March 2020, if you put in 10 grand before the NASDAQ burst and just put $200 a day into that, I'm a stubborn mule. I'm putting 200 in. I don't care how bad it's getting. I don't care that everything's crumbling around. Today it'd be worth $485,000. The first 3 years, you lost 40% every single year.
Yeah.
You're right. Like the asset eventually works out, right? It's going to come back. It's going to get there. It's going to deliver results for you. And just, have confidence in that asset class and keep on putting some into it and stuff. And
Yeah. Time and
time,
patience. I mean, that's
time
the
and
best thing
patience.
that you can have as an investor, which is what makes retiring early kind of doubly hard, right? Because you don't have as much time, and you have to kind of save more up front, which is what my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I are trying to do, is use real estate to retire early, or at least, get work optional a lot quicker. And
I like that.
you just have to trust it. Like I've read enough books, right? Both real estate and personal finance. And I read a ton of business books, and you just have to trust that it's going to recover. And you know what you have to trust? This is very important for you young people. You got to trust it's going to go down. It's going to go down, right?
Mm-hmm.
People say, are we going to have another crash? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I
Well,
promise
there's
you. I'm not even an oracle, but I can tell you it's gonna
it's
go
gonna
down.
happen. Yeah,
It's gonna go down.
yeah.
When? When is it
There's a
gonna?
lot of
If I knew, I'd be a billionaire, right? Like
yeah.
you can't, like nobody knows, but it will go down. And I learned a lot about myself and my husband last March when it went down, and we were like, all right, I know we're, because you used to mention March 13th. That's the day we went under contract on this bed and breakfast. And when the market went down, my husband and I looked at each other, we're like, let's put some in,
Yeah,
and like that's
yeah,
what I knew. Like, all right, we're okay, right? But
yeah.
had that been the day before we wanted to retire, that would have sucked. So
That
that's the
would have
part.
sucked.
That's kind of the point of like diversifying, right? We want to have enough real estate that it can throw off enough money to pay our expenses, and then use the stock market for things that are a little bit more like discretionary, like
Uh-huh.
vacations, saving for cars, you know, whatever those kinds of things are. That way we don't actually have to touch the stocks if we don't have to. And then, like you said about your rent, it's fluctuated a bit, but no matter what the price of your asset has done, your condo, it's thrown off some pretty decent cash flow.
Hmm.
And we're kind of banking on real estate for that purpose. And
Nice.
if we ever pay them off, which my husband never wants to ever, they'll throw off even more. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Terrific points. I love it. I'm sorry.
so
I've probably taken up way too much of your time, or like gone way over your format that you wanted
no,
to follow on this and stuff.
this was
So I
great. This was
apologize.
great. I love it. I sometimes wonder, again, maybe people don't wonder about what I'm doing, but I always talk so much to other people that I don't really ever kind of give a ton of my points of view or what I'm up to. So hopefully people enjoyed that.
There's a big question out there of youth that want to get into real estate. What should I do? And how do they approach it?
Yeah.
And I think the message that you have there is really important for them. Because you have 9 years, but it's only 9 years too. So like, it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you're I got into real estate 40 years ago, and that was it's been a terrific. Well, okay, sure, yeah, 40 years ago.
Right. No,
Wait,
it's relatively recent. And the places
it's
that we
relatively
bought,
recent.
we bought in 2019, 2020, 2021. Right? I mean, the three places we own, we
Yeah,
bought really recently. So people are saying, "Oh, the market's too high. I'm going to wait until the market goes down."
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying don't wait, but I'm saying don't stop looking.
yeah.
You might find something. All right. Anything else to add then before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm good. I think
All
I'm good.
right.
Thank you very much. I
Well,
really appreciate the opportunity to talk and speak with you today. It's awesome.
yeah, this has been awesome talking about real estate, right? Because this is all about managing money, because that's a
Yeah.
huge part of adulting. And you can use real estate as a way to invest and manage your money. How do you want to tell people how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is on Twitter. My handle or on there is at My Wealth Money. My website as well too is mywealthmoney.com. Reach out to me. I post weekly articles on just how to manage your money better, and also success stories of people who are doing great and unique things with different asset classes. So I cover off stocks, real estate, and then also crypto as well too. So try and cycle through those topics on a regular basis there. So
Yeah, I like your take on crypto, and it's a relatively new asset class. So definitely, if you have interest in that, definitely follow My Wealth Money on Twitter, and you can follow me at Adulting is Easy. I'm on Facebook at the same name. I don't post there as much as I should, but if that's your way, you can get in touch with me there. You can email me at realadultingiseasy@gmail.com. Let me know what you think about recent episodes. Let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know if you want to join or if you know somebody that would like to join. You can show support at patreon.com/adultingiseasy. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Hopefully, we've made adulting a little easier for you.